Hey, what's up everyone? This is Ill Factor from beatacademy.com. And in this video, I'm going to share some music production tips while recreating Billie Eilish's Everything I Wanted. So let's dive right in. So first, let's listen to the finished product. So I want to start by highlighting the chords and the voicing of the chords that we hear in the song. They're interesting voicings, and they're ones that I'm not typically going to when I create music myself. So I figured spend some time talking about that because this could also spark some creativity for yourself when approaching your songwriting and working on projects. So we're in the key of D major, and I'm using the Captain Chords plugin here to kind of help navigate and guide us through the voicing here. So D, there's the one chord. And so we're going to start with the one chord, but adding the seventh, that C sharp that we have there. We're going to add that into. So let's just play the A, the C sharp, and then the D in our bass note. That's the D major seventh. And then we're going to shift over to the second, the E major, and then we're going to go down to the seventh, and then back to that first one that we played. Here's everything together. So we want to go for a intimate upright type piano, and for this I'm going to use Native Instruments Contact Library for the piano patch, and the library I'm going to use is the Giant for this. Really like the tone of this one, and so we'll start here. And so let's go ahead and take a listen to the chords. Now, one thing to keep in mind is you notice on the bottom here, as I highlight these, those are the velocity. That's the velocity of each of the notes. So these notes were drawn in because I want to show you a technique that really will help bring life to performance parts such as this. Like, we want to create more intimacy. And a lot of these libraries, what happens is a lot of us aren't really using them to the full potential, to their full capacity of creating the feeling that we're looking for. So in order to do that, we have to kind of mess around with the velocity, because this, especially when you're step sequencing or you're drawing in the notes, they're going to be static. As you can see, the notes and chords are right, which at least I hope they are. But what we want to do now is create intimacy. We can do that with velocity. So let's start by just moving up and down some of the different velocities here, especially this little run here. I want to create some nice gradual movement there. So let's do that. Let's go over here and adjust some of the velocities. That chord, we're going to just, I can use stronger velocities to accent certain parts and lower velocities just to add a little bit more intimacy. So a little bit higher there. And make sure to not just have all the notes in the chords the same velocity. Let's see what that sounds like. So this note here, it's a little too loud, so I'll lower him in the mix. And I want that one to be the leading tone, so we'll put that one up a little bit. So let's listen. You can hear the difference as it goes to the velocity that is already kind of set in its way. So here's one I have with the velocity already set. All right, now let's add a little bit of texture and color to the piano sound. So for that, I'm going to use RC20 Retro Color. Love this plugin, use it a lot, and does a really great job of adding that kind of intimate texture to this. So let's and add a little bit more saturation here, and I'll go from tube to iron, and just a little bit more reverb. Cool, that's a good spot there. And then what we're gonna do is add a compressor on this, but this is gonna be used for the side chaining. That's where we get a lot of that pulsing action. So in order for this to fully work, let's create the kick drum that we hear later on in the song. And as you might have noticed, I have the actual track here as a reference. And this is probably the biggest essential and key element when trying to figure out where to go in your productions. If you're producing and you just have no compass to gauge whether or not having a reference in your project is such a helpful tool, because not only will it help you navigate through the hurdles of, where should I go after these 8 bars and how should I navigate this arrangement? Having the reference in there can tell you, hey, you know what? 16 bars, they go into a verse, and then the next 16 bars they go into a pre-chorus, and they're adding these elements in there. So if you're not if you're just getting used to, or if you're struggling with am I overproducing my records? Am I adding way too much? How much is too much? How much is too little? Having a reference track in your project is golden. It's key. So I would definitely recommend you that you do that. But let's go ahead, and now that I've got the piano riff down, I'm going to go ahead and just keep this on repeat. We'll loop this out. And let's go and add a drum track. So let's go ahead and add the kick drum that we hear happening at the second part of the verse right here. So for that, I'm going to head over to the Beat Academy sample pack, use the ill kick D2 as my kick drum, and you can download this sample pack. It's loaded with construction kits, loops, samples, one-shots. It's yours absolutely free. Just click the link below in the description box. Once it's here, we're going to do a little bit of shaping to get the tone of the kick as closest to the reference. I actually like the way that the kick drum is and the overall body of that kick drum is. So let's go ahead and try to match that. So it's really boomy. So let's use the amp envelope here to adjust that. So I'm going to bring the sustain down a little bit. And that's really helpful there. It creates a nice body there. Bring the release and maybe shorten the decay just a little bit there. Cool. Now let's use a filter on here. Let's filter out some of that high end. And we'll leave the resonance up a little bit. And give it some nice drive here. So about maybe. That's cool. That really helps the kick drum knock a little bit more. And I'll use an EQ8 right after that just to sweep away some of that low end there. Okay, cool. Now we're going to go back to the piano and we're going to enable the sidechain of that piano. And we're going to choose the audio to trigger the sidechain as the kick. So the kick drum is going to trigger the sidechain. So every time the kick is being played, it will cause the piano to duck. So let's go ahead and solo these two. Now, similar to what we've done with the kick drum, let's go ahead and create a MIDI track so that we can load this MIDI track with another sample to create the clap that we hear in the verse. So I'm going back to the Beat Academy sample pack, one shots, ill sound design. Right here, we'll use the sound. And I'm not going to drag it in here because that'll just convert this MIDI track into an audio track. We're going to drag it in here so that it will create a simpler where that sample would live. And the reason why we're doing that, instead of just loading a drum rack so that we can load up that drum rack with multiple types of sounds, so that we can do this specific technique that I'm going to do now. So let's load the sample here, right there. And let's first get the timing right. So it needs to be on the 2. So let's move this, I'm just gonna fold it here. Move it on the 2 and on the 4, right? And we'll just loop that one bar. I'm gonna grab this and just loop that right there. So we do that. Now, let's shape the tone of this clap first. So first thing we're gonna do is head over back, just like we did with the kick, to the amp envelope. And let's just shorten this a little bit. So we're gonna bring the decay down slightly. We're gonna move the sustain down right here. Let's just see what that sounds like. Nice and intimate. And then we'll just lower the release down as well. And then let's use a filter that's on the sampler itself, just to filter out some of the high end and add some drive to this as well. So we'll go here and give it a little drive. Okay, now here's where it gets cool. Let me just loop this section, Command L. And what we're going to do is the root note for the sample is at C, but we have that clack clack, that little that rhythm there. So right here. So we can now have a lower pitch version, and we'll just shorten that out so it'll be right. So we're going to extend this so we and repeat that same rhythm again. So I'll just duplicate this section here, hit Command D, and then merge them together as one by hitting Command J. And then we might just go one up. Now, what's cool about having it in the simpler is that it's playing that same sample, but just pitched down. So that's what we wanted to do. And might just open this up a little. And we'll add a little bit of delay. So I'll go to the echo here and bring this all the way down to the 64th note. And then let's go ahead and filter that out right there. Just a little bit of that dry and wet. And maybe every 16. All right, now let's focus on the pads and bass that we hear in that chorus. So we'll start with the pads. I'm going to use the wavetable here in Ableton Live, and you could use any 2 oscillator synths that you might have in your DAW to follow along. First, let's go ahead and shape the actual body of this. We want a little bit of release, so when the notes stop playing, the tone continues to hang over. Now, the tone itself is a little brighter, but it seems to be filtered. It almost seems like it's underwater. It's got a little waviness to it. So we'll start with a sawtooth, and that's too bright, so we'll filter that down. Let's say right around here. And then what's a lot of the tone of that that pad comes from really boosting up some of the resonance that we have here. So I'm going to boost that up a lot, maybe just around here would be good. And we're going to turn on the second filter and just bring this up to, let's say, around here. And the reason why I'm doing that is so that I can eliminate some of the low end and really just create a certain, have the certain frequency resonate more than the rest. As you can hear, that's giving it more of that nasally type of sound. So let's go ahead and boost the resonance up for this one as well. And this is how you can really help shape the overall tonality of a sound here. So now let's go and just bring the attack back a little bit. So what I'll do is with this first oscillator is I'll leave it there, and we'll turn the second oscillator and choose a sine wave. And go to the unison mode and head for classic. That's cool there. Now what we'll do is we'll add an additional filter to that. So we're going to filter the filtered signals, and we'll go ahead and bring that down. Let's add a little bit of movement. So we'll go back to the LFO here and into the matrix. And let's go ahead and choose the detune and assign that to LFO1. It's a lot of craziness happening, so we'll lower the amount. All right, and actually I did that to oscillator 2 and not 1. So let me go back to that, and it's supposed to be the oscillator 1. So let's do that. Oscillator 1, same thing we'll do there, and we'll just set that to 0. The reason why I did it to oscillator 1, because it's the sawtooth and it's a little bit more noticeable. And now we'll go to an echo, add some delay on this. And wash this out with a nice reverb. So just put the reverb directly on and just leave it right here. Now let's see what that sounds like with everybody. And now for the bass line, we'll load up another wavetable here, And this is going to be a nice growly Reese type of bass. So we're going to be using 2 oscillators and detuning one of them so we get that nice growly chordsy effect. So let's head over to a sawtooth. And then we'll put oscillator 2 to a sawtooth as well. But we're going to detune this one. And we're going to bring the frequency cutoff down. And then we'll go and lower this a whole octave down. And there's our nice little growl. We'll make sure that we set this from polyphonic to monophonic. And let's go ahead and put this down. And then next, we're going to use an arpeggiator to arpeggiate the chords that are happening in the second verse. So let's go back to our instruments, wavetable, and with the arpeggiator set to a 1/8 note rate, let's go ahead and stay right on our sine wave, but we're going to do some adjusting here on the amp envelope. So let me solo this. So let's set it from polyphonic to monophonic and bring the release down and just shorten the decay. And we'll just actually give a little bit of chorus here. And open up the gate on the reverb. So we can hear that happening and creeping in and out throughout that second verse. So I'll use the second oscillator, just take away some of that low end. There you go. Well, hey, I hope this video has been helpful for you. Thanks for watching. And as my gift to you for watching this video, I'd love to send you the sample pack that's featured in this video. It also comes with construction kits, loops, one-shots, transition effects, and they work on any DAW. It's 100% royalty free, and they're yours absolutely free. Just click the link below in the description box to download the sample pack today. You can also visit www.beatacademy.com/pack. Be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with upcoming videos. I'd love to hear from you. Give me your input on some videos that you'd like to see. And so just put that below in the comment section, and I'll see you next time.